And I believe our witnesses are making their way. So good morning, members. Today I'm presenting AB 282, another consumer protection bill. AB 282 protects children from the preventable strangulation hazard posed by cords on window coverings. The United States Consumer Protection Product Safety Commission identified window coverings as one of the top 5 hidden hazards in the country. And when I've talked with friends and neighbors about this bill, most people say, I thought those were already banned, the corded windows. This is because certain window coverings may present an unreasonable risk of injury and strangulation to young children. Consumer Product Safety Commission estimates that a minimum of 11 fatal strangulations related to window coverings cords on average occurred per year in the United States from 1999 to 2010 and among children under 5 years old. Additionally, the Consumer Product Safety Commission found that from 1996 to 2012, an estimated 1,500 children received treatments for injuries resulting from entanglements on window covering cords. Among the non-fatal incidents, 19 involved hospitalizations with long-term outcomes ranging from scars to permanent brain damage to quadriplegics. Currently, there is a voluntary standard that was created by the American National Standards Institute and Window Covering Manufacturers Association with the intent to mitigate the dangers of a corded window covering. However, this voluntary standard has failed to eliminate or significantly reduce the hazards posed by these products. Since the voluntary standards have been in place, we have not seen the numbers of children being strangled go down. These hazardous products have been allowed to remain on the market even though safer alternatives have existed for almost 20 years. AB 282 will protect young children by prohibiting the sale of corded window coverings in California. If there are accessible cords that cannot be eliminated, then the product can be sold if the cords are made inaccessible through effective passive guarding devices. This bill will also require licensed child care facilities serving children under 6 years of age to replace all corded window coverings or make accessible cords inaccessible through the use of an effective passive guarding device. And members, this also comes to me from my district. I have with me today the Hawks, who lost their son, Jacob, to strangulation from a corded blind.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jesse Hawk. This is my wife, Michelle. We live in Tracy, California. To start, I'd like to thank the committee and Chairwoman Bonilla for this opportunity to tell our horrific story and to potentially to make a difference for the better. When my wife and I learned in 2006 that we were going to have triplets, we were shocked and excited. We immediately began to prepare ourselves and our home for their arrival. Among all the other preparations was the task of baby-proofing our home, which we undertook as well as we knew how. We knew the pull cords on the blinds were a danger, so we took them out of the way on top of the valance. We even had curtains in front of the blinds. With triplets, you can imagine how crowded the room was with 3 cribs, 2 dressers, and a rocking chair. We thought the room was safe. On January 25th, 2008, my wife put the triplets down for a late afternoon nap. A while later, she heard our daughter screaming. She went to check on the triplets to find that Jacob had become entangled in the inner cord of the window blinds. He died 2 weeks later from the injuries he suffered. We were devastated to have lost our child. The pain we feel today is as strong as it was then, and there's no cure that will make that pain go away. However, we can make a difference in the lives of others. After Jacob's death, we stumbled across an article about other children who had died from becoming caught in window blind cords. As we got more and more involved, we heard about an organization called Parents for Window Blind Safety, from whom we learned that incidents like the one that took our son are disturbingly frequent. We want a strong, cordless bill protecting California's children so they can live in a safe environment. 51% of our population rents, leaving California renters no choice on how their window coverings are. California has the highest death rate for window coverings cords in the nation. On average, Children die once a month from window covering cords you can buy on today's market. Children have been dying on safety devices and so-called safer products promoted by the industry for the last 20 years. Help us protect California's kids by keeping the language in the bill strong, cordless, and safe. AB 282 will affirm California as a leader and set the example for other states to follow. There's nothing that can be done for Jacob and our family, but there's definitely something that we can do for other families so they do not have to experience this type of horrific tragedy. In conclusion, we again like to thank the committee and the chair, Assemblywoman Bonilla, for her time and consideration. As a final note, we wanted to mention that just 1 month ago in Livermore, another family lost their son to a corded-related accident. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in support of the bill?
Madam Chair, members, my name is Aaron Lewis with the Consumer Federation of California. We strongly support this bill, which would prohibit the sale of corded window coverings in California and require licensed child care facilities serving children under 6 years of age to replace any corded window coverings or make cords inaccessible through a guarding device. It is estimated that at least one child every month in the United States dies or is seriously injured from being strangled by the cord of a window covering. Strangulation deaths from corded window coverings are preventable, and the voluntary industry standard issued nearly 20 years ago to mitigate the dangers of accessible window cords has not significantly reduced the hazards posed by these products. The industry standard is inadequate. Even with the most recent revision of these standards, the Federal Consumer Product Safety Commission has stated that 50% of recent incidents could still occur with pull cords or continuous loops on window coverings that meet the current version of the industry standard. Right now, every window covering design type, nearly every window covering design type has a cordless alternative available on the market, but the fact that corded products are still available on the market creates consumer confusion and undermines the value of safer products. This bill would ensure that consumers will replace hazardous corded products with newer corded products that do not pose strangulation risks. This bill is important and necessary to address a persistent and preventable danger to children. We urge your support respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you. And in support?
Yes, this is my daughter, Foxy Beckett. My name is Cheshua Beckett.
Can you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
My name is Cheshua Beckett. I'm a high school teacher here in Sacramento, and I just want to urge you to support this. My daughter died on safe, quote-unquote, safe corded window coverings. The voluntary standard did not protect my family. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn to the audience to see if there's others in support to speak on the bill from the audience. Seeing none, I want to thank you very much for your testimony. We'll now invite those in opposition to come forward and speak. I think we'll need a couple of the chairs here, but thank you very much. In opposition?
Members of the committee, Scott Governor here on behalf of the Window Covering Manufacturers Association. Certainly, the tragedies are significant, and we don't want to minimize that. There are some elements to raise, though, however, with respect to the bill. According to the CPSC, over 80% of the fatalities that have occurred are on blinds that predate the safety standards. Also, the safety standards were updated in 2012 to eliminate additional hazards associated with the blinds, such as the exposed cord, to mandate that a tag go on the actual cord itself, and to make the cords more difficult to turn into loops. So the products have, in fact, improved, and the numbers have, in fact, gone down. Despite these changes, the Consumer Federation and others want to ban the product. And in their words, as referenced in the analysis, despite their availability, safe window coverings are not widely used by consumers because they are more expensive than corded window coverings. In fact, they're triple the price. Consumers, especially low-income consumers, go to their Home Depot, go to their Lowe's, and they elect to buy corded products. These are the newer, safer corded products because this may be all they have. certainly the warnings are there to make them safer. But with the bill, what you're telling these consumers is that you can't have these anymore. If you want window coverings, you have to pay triple the price. The CPSC has also noted that oftentimes many consumers elect not to install the tension devices that come with the devices, and they uninstall operable tension devices that are pre-installed on the items. So despite what you do here, these products may still not work because the consumers have shown an interest in removing the safety item for whatever reason they may have. So that's something to keep in mind. And finally, there's this misnomer about the term voluntary standard versus mandatory standard. The analysis notes that the CPSC may in fact create a mandatory standard. We don't know if that is or is not the case. I will say that everything from cribs to strollers to pool alarms are all covered by voluntary standards. If an entity does not comply with the voluntary standards, the CPSC has the authority to deem that product a hazard and file an enforcement action. So while they are technically voluntary, they are de facto mandatory. And ultimately, the legislature should encourage consumers to replace these older products with newer products. That can be done by keeping the prices low. Someone referred to a renter earlier. Well, landlords will be more inclined to replace old products with new products if they are less expensive. If they suddenly have to triple the price for replacing those window coverings, they will not do it. The studies have shown that 50% of the consumers indicated they would not replace an older product if the prices tripled, which is what happens. So for those reasons, we ask that you consider bifurcating the bill. Take out the child care component, leave that in, and then take out the all-out ban. The feds are working on this. The products have improved. We think a ban and telling your constituents that they can no longer have these products is extreme. So for these reasons, we request those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in opposition? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee for questions. Ms. Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblymember Eggman, for bringing forward the bill, and thank you for sharing your very sad experience, and I'm very sorry for that, and I appreciate you sharing it with the committee. I'd like to go directly to the issues that were just raised by the opposition, and particularly the older blinds not being covered, and how it may create a disincentive, for example, for property owners to replace them with what might not be perfect, but is hopefully safer, that may be on the market now. Because the reality is, if we're not making kids safer, this is cosmetic. Can you please address that?
The portion of people aren't going to replace it because it's 3 times more expensive?
Yes.
I mean, I can
And the statistics on the older blinds being the ones that seem maybe the real cause of the issue, which I don't think the bill directly addresses since it's going to new transactions.
we're going to new transactions, but based on the old, or based on the new safety standards, there are continued incidents with blinds that were produced under the new safety standards. And we have, and I can pass it out if you want, but we did a full search of the cost of blinds, and I can pass it out to you if you'd like, but here is what we're talking about for $15.97 at Home Depot. And so all the blinds we looked up, both what is currently legal and what we would like to go to, there's a price difference of about $3 per blind. And we would be willing, where the price really jumps up is on big giant windows, and we certainly would be willing to look at some kind of amendments around the big windows that are more difficult. But the issue that they're 3 times more expensive is simply not true. It is simply not true. Right now at Home Depot, you can get a cordless window blind for $15.97 for a window. As members know, well, I'll take the questions so far.
Yes, Ms. Baker, follow-up?
Just quickly, I'm sure it depends on the size of the window and what particularly folks are buying. It sounds like you are open to amendments to work on that cost issue, or at least is one of them the bifurcation that was suggested by the opposition?
Well, the bifurcation would take out the ban.
So that's a no.
That would be a no.
Got it.
All right, other questions? Yes, Ms. Campos.
Assemblymember Eggman, first of all, thank you for bringing this forward, and for the witnesses, thank you for sharing your story. I did have a conversation with you on this prior to this hearing. The question that I also wanted to ask is, we're talking about homes, but daycare facilities were brought up as well. If this were to move forward, would that mean that the daycare facilities would have to switch out if they had old ones immediately, or what would be the time frame? Or can you explain in the details that situation?
We've accepted that we'll go to 2018 for them to phase them out.
To phase them out, but regardless of the size of the window, they would have to phase them out, correct?
We could talk about that. I don't know of many daycare facilities that have the big picture windows, but we could certainly work with that.
Well, I think that, when you have multiple children, it's harder to watch them, even though they're pretty good at watching them. And I guess I would like to just understand your phasing out, but daycare facilities, I'm really concerned about.
The plan is to phase them
Yes.
them out.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Wood?
I had a question. Early on in the conversation, you mentioned passive guarding devices. Can you describe those and why, instead of a ban, you haven't actually mandated people to use the passive guarding devices?
Some of the ones they have in place with the voluntary standards have proved to be ineffective. Some of the other ones are more like this, where there is a cord inside, but it is blocked by the fabric. Would be an example.
Just to follow up on Ms. Campos's question, daycare stays as is in the bill, which is 2019 is the date they have, so they have a few years to make the transition. The amendment that the author is accepting, correct?
Correct.
Applies to the manufacturers, have until, we moved it from 17 to 2018 for the rest of the bill to take effect. Mr. Jones.
Ms. Eggman, this is another bill I came in today preparing to vote no on. But while we were sitting here, I texted my wife. She's an interior decorator. And I had never heard of this problem before. And I asked her, have you ever heard of this? And she said yes. And so I'm going to lay off today. And I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with the dates. I think they might need to be extended out a little bit. But you're certainly moved me from a no position to, let's see what we can do to work on it. And I'll ask my wife what she thinks too.
That's good.
Thank you
Always
very
ask
much.
your wife.
Yeah, she can give you the price quotes on blinds, I'm sure.
If I texted her, she would send me the prices right now. So thank you.
Very good. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Eggman, for bringing this forward. I want to extend our deep appreciation to those who gave testimony and the parents. We know how difficult that is, but we want to thank you for being advocates on behalf of other children, other families who could not be here today but are represented in photographs, and we know are in each of our districts most likely. So thank you for bringing this very important issue forward. Thank you for your willingness to work on the business issues around this bill as well. And with that, we will take a vote. Do we have a motion and a second yet? We need a motion? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. This is to do pass as amended to Human Services.
Bonilla.
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Jones. Jones not voting. Baker. Not voting. Bloom. Aye. Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eggman.
Aye.
Eggman, aye. Gatto. Holden. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Ting. Wilk.
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Wood. Wood, aye.
8-0. The measure is out. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.